Welcome to the Success in Africa podcast with Dr. Modupe, your weekly dose of leadership vitamins to make you successful in Africa.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Success in Africa Leadership Podcast. My name is Dr. Modupe Taylor Pierce, and I am a scholar and practitioner of organizational development and leadership. Simply put, I study what makes people successful. I have been doing this now for 3 decades with a particular focus on people in Africa. And in this podcast, I share stories, lessons, insights about people who have been successful in Africa and the keys to their success. Why am I doing this? Because I have a vision for Africa. I have a vision that Africa will be a high-income continent by the year 2040. And for that to happen, I need you and every other African listening, watching this podcast to become successful. So, if you want to be successful in Africa, I encourage you to like and subscribe to this podcast. This episode is brought to you courtesy of BCA Online, your one-stop shop for mastering leadership. Joining BCA Online is free, and it gives you access to a plethora of information, videos, knowledge, networks that can help you to be successful. It's also where I respond to your questions. If you post questions for me about anything that you've watched on this episode or previous episodes, I respond there. So just click on the link and you can join BCA Online. Now, today is the post log of a 5 series that I have been doing on culture and success. Over the last 5 weeks, I've been exploring 5 cultural behaviors that are common to just about every tribe in Africa. And yet, even though they are precious to us, they may even be part of what makes us feel like we are Africans. However, each one of these 5 is actually making us poorer and less successful. If you want to learn more about those 5, I encourage you to watch those videos. But I'll just give you the quick titles of each one of them. The first one is our reverence for seniority. The second one is weddings and funerals, our proclivity for overspending on them. The third one is marginalization of women. The fourth one is our disrespect for time. And the fifth one is the fact that we often allow relationships to trump rules, which leads to indiscipline and makes us poorer. So these are 5. And again, if you haven't watched any of them, I truly encourage you to go back and watch them, because these are aspects of our culture. Now, culture is something that every family, organization, tribe, country has. It's simply the sum total of behaviors that are rewarded plus behaviors that are tolerated minus behaviors that are punished. That's what culture is. And every family has culture. Every company has culture. Every organization has culture. Every country has culture. Every tribe has culture. Now, what we're going to talk about today, which is critically important, having understood that you may find yourself in a culture that may be promoting behaviors that are actually not helping that organization to achieve its goals. So what do? Today, we're going to talk about how to change culture. The first myth I want to disavow you of, in case anybody said it to you, is it is culture, you cannot be changed. It cannot be changed. It's the system, it will always be this way. That is absolutely untrue. Culture can be changed. And there are lots of examples about it. I suspect you may have even gone through some experiences where if you look back at certain companies, you see how their culture has changed. Even in your family, some of the things that used to be normal have changed. At a country level, cultures change. Even in churches, mosques, cultures can change. Some churches that used to worship very quietly and have 1 hour services now have 2 hour services and they make a lot of noise. Some churches in which seats and pews were reserved for certain people, now maybe they don't even have pews anymore. They now have cushioned seats and they're not reserved for anybody. There are lots of examples. So the first thing I want you to take away to be successful is to understand that culture is not immutable. It can be changed. But it's not easy. It's not easy. And today I'm going to share with you the 6 steps, 6 things that you need to do in order to change culture. Because you see, the first thing that you have to understand is you're a leader. Leaders are there to make things happen. Leaders make things happen. You're not just a caretaker. So, how do you change culture? Step 1, you have to model the behavior. Whatever it is, the desired behavior, the desired change, you need to show it by example. Africa is replete, sadly, with leaders who basically say, do as I say, not as I do. That doesn't work. You have to model the behavior. So whether it's stopping the marginalization of women or being on time for everything, you have to start by modeling it yourself. Because if you don't, then you've become the biggest saboteur of the culture change that you want. The second thing that you need to do is you need to recruit champions. This is especially true if you're looking to change culture in an organization that has more than, say, 5 people. If it's a small organization where there's only less than 5 people, then you basically are the only champion. But if the organization is slightly larger, then you cannot be everywhere at the same time. So you need to recruit some champions. These are select people that you are going to first share with them the vision for the change in culture, the change in behavior. Hopefully, there are people who have already started to model the behavior, or there are people who have complained about the way things are, and you can now convince them and get them to also model the behavior. Those are your champions. They are influencers within your organization. Who are the most appropriate champions? Generally, you will know by just looking around. But as a general rule of thumb, people who have been around the organization for a while are usually the kind of people that could be champions. Of course, if they are steeped in the old way of doing things and not ready to change, then they may not be appropriate champions. But you're looking for people who are change agents, who are influential. So That's step two, recruit champions. Third thing you need to also do is you need to communicate constantly about the change in cultural behavior. It needs to be communicated so often that the people in your organization half the time want to just roll their eyes. Because from their perspective, it seems like you can't talk about anything else. You need to communicate constantly. I have met many leaders who have said, well, we tried to change this. I've told them about it, but they don't seem to listen. Guess what? You are not going to change cultural behavior by simply telling them 2 times or 3 times that we should stop doing this and start doing this. If it is something that they have inculcated, that has been done for years or decades, it is going to take a lot of interventions for it to change and become the norm. So you need to be ready to communicate constantly about it. Beat it into their heads verbally. That's number 3. Number 4 that you need to do is you need to also reward compliance, and you reward the compliance publicly. As with any culture change, there will be some people who are, early adopters, and there will be some resistors. When people do and perform the behavior that you desire, you need to make a big deal about it. Reward the compliance publicly. Let everybody see that, you know what? Mr. So-and-so is really keen on us behaving in this way. That's important because not only do you send a message to the person who did it, but you're also sending a message to all the other people. And that's important. So reward the compliance publicly. The next thing that you also need to do is to make sure that you punish non-compliance consistently. Notice I did not say punish it publicly or punish it privately. But what is clear is that it must be punished consistently. In other words, anybody who doesn't comply needs to receive some kind of punishment. Whether that person is your brother, your brother-in-law, your favorite child, the nephew of your friend, or the most productive salesperson in your company, or even one of the highest ranking people in your community. You need to punish non-compliance consistently. When people see that certain behaviors simply are not going to be tolerated, no matter who you are, it reinforces the change. That's number 5. The final thing that you have to remember, or key to changing culture, is to remember that you have to be patient and persistent. In other words, don't expect the cultural change to happen overnight, or in 1 week, or in 1 month, or in 3 months. It takes time. You're talking about human beings and behaviors. Research shows that generally the minimum amount of time that it takes for people to learn new behaviors and have it inculcated into them is 4 to 6 months. So be patient and persistent. And by patient, I don't mean patient with others in the form of saying, oh, when they don't do it, you don't punish the non-compliance. No, be patient with yourself. Be patient recognizing that I may have said this 20 times. I may have beat the drum for the last 4 weeks, and I may not be seeing it consistently yet, but I need to understand that this is a long process. So 6 steps. Number 1, model the behavior. Number two, recruit champions. Number three, communicate constantly. Number four, reward compliance publicly. Number five, punish non-compliance consistently. And number six, be patient and persistent. It's easier to change culture in smaller organizations than larger ones. Just remember this. If you are running a large organization, the larger the organization you're running, the harder it is and the longer it takes. In a small organization like a family, you can change culture fairly quickly. Maybe 6 months, 3 months. If it's a huge organization or an entire country, it may take 10 years. An example of somebody who changed culture is His Excellency Paul Kagame. He changed the Rwandan culture from a culture that marginalized women to a culture that offers equal opportunity to women. From a culture that tolerated lateness to one that absolutely does not tolerate lateness. From a culture that had a reverence for seniority to one that just has a respect for seniority. But it took him a long time. President Kagame first had to demonstrate, model the behavior himself. He had to enforce the rules regardless of who was near to him or whatever relationship he had with the persons. He had to be on time in delivering and in showing up. Then he recruited the champions. And those champions, he leveraged them in terms of their behavior, in terms of them communicating. He communicated constantly. It was in every vision, statement, communication that he sent out. He also made sure that he celebrated those who complied with the new culture, and he punished consistently. And it took him at least a decade. But today we're seeing the fruit of that. At the country level, other presidents are trying to do that. Some have given up. But the first thing that they have to do is to model the behavior. In Burkina, Ibrahim Traore is in the process of creating a culture change. He hasn't hit a decade yet, so we give him time. In organizations, new leaders sometimes succeed in making culture change. If you're the founder of an organization, it's relatively easy for you because you're the one who's been there from the start. And the culture of the organization will often model your behavior. But don't ever forget this if you want to be successful in Africa, that you as the leader can change culture. In fact, it is your duty to ensure that the culture of the organization is appropriate for steering the organization towards success. Because here's the other final reality, folks. Your culture determines your destiny. Yes. The behaviors that you demonstrate, the behaviors that you tolerate, the behaviors that you reward will determine how far you go. And eliminating those behaviors that might take you away from how far you can go is going to be key to your success. There's a reason why certain groups, certain families appear to consistently achieve certain results, good or bad. It's rooted in their culture. So recognize this, my fellow Africans. If you want to be successful, pay attention to culture. But do not become a victim of it. Recognize that you have agency and you can be a champion of a new culture. Thank you so much for listening and watching. We've come to the end of today's episode. Today wraps up really the 5 previous episodes that we've had. And today we've talked about how to change culture. I really hope you've learned a lot about how to be successful in Africa. This stuff is absolutely critical to your success. More than the quality of your business plan, more than the location you're in, the behaviors, the actions that you demonstrate and that you inculcate into your organization are going to be the biggest factor over a long period of time regarding your success. Please don't forget to share this video with others. Like it, subscribe to the channel. Let other people know about this because together we're going to change Africa and make it a high-income continent. I'll see you next week.
Tomorrow belongs to those people who prepare for it today. See you next week.